In a distant corner of the galaxy, where stars twinkled like diamonds scattered across a velvet canvas, an alien fleet hovered silently. These were not just any aliens. They were the Zetherians, a species known for their cold logic and calculated precision. For centuries, they had observed Earth from afar, studying its inhabitants with curiosity mixed with disdain. To them, humans seemed chaotic, unpredictable, and primitive, a species unworthy of notice. But something about humanity gnawed at the edges of their hive mind, something unsettling. Xylar, the commander of the Zetherian fleet, stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring intently at a holographic projection of Earth. The blue-green orb floated serenely in the display, its surface dotted with swirling clouds and shimmering oceans. Cities glowed faintly beneath the planet's atmosphere, their lights forming intricate patterns that hinted at the civilization below. Xylar tilted his elongated head, his luminous eyes narrowing as he processed the data streaming into his neural interface. "Commander," said Vrex, Xylar's second-in-command, breaking the silence. His voice carried a tone of unease. "Our scans confirm what we suspected. No unified planetary defense system, minimal space-based weaponry, and rudimentary interstellar capabilities. This species poses no immediate threat." Xylar didn't respond immediately. Instead, he zoomed in on one section of the hologram, focusing on a bustling cityscape. Skyscrapers pierced the sky, vehicles zipped along roads, and tiny figures moved about like ants tending to their colony. He replayed footage of human history, centuries of war, innovation, destruction, and rebirth. It was maddeningly inconsistent, yet somehow effective. Humans fought among themselves constantly, only to unite when faced with external danger. They adapted quickly, learning from failures and turning setbacks into opportunities. "They are resilient," Xylar finally said, his voice low and measured. "Resilience is dangerous when paired with ingenuity. Look at their technology." He gestured toward another part of the projection, which showed images of rockets launching into space, satellites orbiting Earth, and experimental spacecraft testing new propulsion systems. "They may lack our sophistication now, but their progress is accelerating. If left unchecked, they could become a threat within decades." Vrex shifted uncomfortably, his exoskeleton clicking softly. "But, Commander, they are still so fractured. Their nations squabble endlessly, their resources are unevenly distributed, and their leaders often act against their own best interests. Surely such disunity makes them vulnerable." Xylar turned to face Vrex, his mandibles twitching slightly. "Disunity is precisely why they are unpredictable. Each faction operates independently, yet they can mobilize astonishingly fast when provoked. Witness how they rallied during their global conflicts, their so-called world wars, and more recently during their environmental crises. They have demonstrated remarkable adaptability." Vrex hesitated before speaking again. "Then what do you propose? Should we strike now while they are weak, or withdraw entirely and monitor them further?" Xylar considered this carefully. Striking now would ensure dominance over Earth's resources, including its vast reserves of rare minerals and water. However, it also risked awakening a sleeping giant. Humans might be fractured, but they had proven time and again that desperation bred unity, and unity bred strength. On the other hand, withdrawing meant giving them more time to develop, potentially closing the technological gap between their species. "We will strike," Xylar decided after a long pause. "But cautiously. We must neutralize their ability to resist, without provoking unnecessary retaliation. Once their infrastructure is crippled, we can negotiate terms favorable to us. They will see reason, if not willingly, then through force." Vrex nodded, though doubt lingered in his glowing eyes. "As you command, Commander." Unbeknownst to the Zetherians, humanity had already detected their presence. Deep within the confines of a top-secret military facility buried beneath the Nevada desert, a team of scientists and engineers worked tirelessly around the clock. At the center of it all was Dr. Elena Carter, a brilliant astrophysicist whose life's work revolved around understanding the mysteries of the cosmos. When her instruments picked up faint energy signatures emanating from beyond Earth's moon, she knew they were dealing with something extraordinary. Elena stared at the monitor in front of her, her brow furrowed in concentration. Lines of code scrolled rapidly across the screen, accompanied by graphs and charts displaying anomalous readings. She leaned closer, adjusting the sensitivity of the sensors. The signals were faint but unmistakable, patterns too regular to be natural, too deliberate to be coincidence. "General," she called out, swiveling her chair to face the man standing nearby. General Marcus Hayes, a grizzled veteran with sharp features and piercing gray eyes, stepped forward. He had been overseeing Operation Starshield, a classified initiative aimed at preparing Earth for potential extraterrestrial threats. Though skeptical at first, even he couldn't ignore the mounting evidence. "What is it, Doctor?" Hayes asked, his voice gruff but tinged with urgency. "These readings," Elena began, pointing to a series of spikes on the graph. "They're coming from multiple points near the Lagrange points, areas where gravitational forces balance perfectly. Someone, or something, is using those locations to conceal themselves." Hayes crossed his arms, his expression grim. "You think it's hostile?" "I don't know," Elena admitted, running a hand through her dark hair. "But if they're hiding, it means they're either scared of us or planning something big." Hayes let out a slow breath, his mind racing. Humanity had always speculated about the existence of intelligent extraterrestrial life, but few had prepared for the possibility of contact, let alone conflict. Now faced with undeniable proof, he felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. The fate of billions rested on the decisions he made in the coming days. "All right," Hayes said firmly. "We need to accelerate Operation Starshield. I want every available resource diverted to upgrading our orbital defenses. And Elena," he locked eyes with her, "I need you to figure out exactly who or what we're dealing with. Time is not on our side." Elena nodded, determination hardening her gaze. As Hayes turned to leave, issuing orders to his subordinates, she returned her attention to the monitors. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, initiating a deep space scan to gather more data. Whatever was out there, it wasn't going to catch humanity off guard. Meanwhile, in cities and towns across the globe, life continued as usual. People went about their daily routines, oblivious to the shadow looming over their world. In New York City, traffic clogged the streets, horns blaring impatiently. In Tokyo, neon lights illuminated crowded avenues, casting colorful reflections on rain-slicked pavement. In rural villages, farmers tended to crops under the golden light of the setting sun. Humanity remained blissfully unaware of the storm brewing in the heavens above, but not everyone was ignorant. Rumors began to circulate online, cryptic messages posted on obscure forums, grainy videos claiming to show unidentified flying objects streaking across the night sky. Conspiracy theorists seized on these reports, speculating wildly about government cover-ups and impending invasions. Most dismissed them as nonsense, but a small group of amateur astronomers noticed strange fluctuations. In satellite orbits, something was interfering with Earth's artificial moons, causing them to drift slightly off course. Back in Nevada, Elena monitored these developments closely. She had tapped into civilian networks, sifting through social media posts and forum threads for clues. While much of the chatter was baseless, some observations aligned disturbingly well with her own findings. Whoever, or whatever, was out there, they were getting closer. As the hours ticked by, tension mounted within the facility. Engineers worked feverishly to retrofit decommissioned satellites into orbital weapons platforms, while programmers coded algorithms to detect and track enemy movements. Pilots trained rigorously in state-of-the-art fighter jets equipped with experimental plasma cannons, preparing for a battle none of them truly believed would come. Yet amidst the fear and uncertainty, there was also hope. Humanity had faced extinction-level threats before, asteroids, pandemics, nuclear wars, and emerged stronger each time. This challenge, though unprecedented, was no different. Deep down, everyone involved in Operation Starshield shared a quiet confidence If push came to shove, humanity would fight back and they would win. Little did they know the moment of truth was closer than anyone anticipated. Far above Earth, the Zetherians finalized their plans. Their ships hummed with latent energy, ready to descend upon the unsuspecting planet below. The stage was set for a confrontation that would change the course of history, not just for humanity, but for the entire galaxy. The Zetherian fleet moved with eerie precision, their ships gliding silently through the void of space like predators stalking prey. Commander Xylar stood on the bridge of his flagship, his elongated form radiating authority as he issued commands to his crew. The invasion plan was simple yet calculated. Disable Earth's communication networks, cripple its military capabilities, and establish dominance before humanity could mount any meaningful resistance. To Xylar, it was a matter of logic. Humans were chaotic and disorganized, traits that made them vulnerable. Victory would be swift and decisive. Back on Earth, however, humanity was far from idle. Deep within the classified facility in Nevada, Dr. Elena Carter and her team worked tirelessly to prepare for the inevitable confrontation. The data pouring in from their sensors painted a grim picture. Multiple alien vessels positioned strategically around Earth's orbit, emitting energy signatures consistent with cloaking technology. It wasn't just surveillance anymore. It was preparation for an attack. Elena stared at the holographic display projected above the central console, her mind racing. She had spent years studying anomalies in space, but nothing could have prepared her for this. Every fiber of her being told her that time was running out. General Marcus Hayes paced behind her, his boots echoing softly against the metallic floor. His face was etched with tension, but his eyes burned with resolve. "Doctor," Hayes said abruptly, breaking the tense silence. "How long until they make their move?" Elena hesitated, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. "It's hard to say. Their movements suggest they're waiting for something, perhaps the optimal moment to strike. But based on their positioning, I'd estimate we have less than 48 hours. Hayes nodded grimly. "Then we need to act fast. Operation Starshield isn't ready, but we can't afford to sit back and wait. We'll deploy what we've got and hope it buys us enough time." While the military scrambled to prepare, ordinary citizens across the globe remained blissfully unaware of the impending danger. In bustling cities like New York and Tokyo, life carried on as usual. Children played in parks, couples strolled, hand in hand through streets lined with cafes, and commuters rushed to catch buses and trains. Even amateur astronomers who had noticed strange activity in the skies dismissed it as atmospheric phenomena or glitches in their equipment. But not everyone ignored the signs. A small group of conspiracy theorists and UFO enthusiasts took to social media, sharing videos and photos of unidentified objects hovering near Earth's atmosphere. One video, shot by a teenager in rural Montana using a high-powered telescope, showed a massive triangular craft drifting silently above the horizon. Within hours, the clip went viral, sparking debates and ridicule alike. Most dismissed it as fake, but a handful of viewers felt a chill run down their spines. Something about the footage felt real. Among those who paid attention was Sarah Chen, a fighter pilot stationed at Edwards Air Force Base in California. Known for her razor-sharp instincts and unmatched aerial skills, Sarah had risen quickly through the ranks. When rumors of alien sightings reached her unit, she initially dismissed them as nonsense. But then came the orders, from the highest levels of command, to report immediately to a secure location in Nevada. No explanation was given, only instructions, to bring her flight gear. Sarah arrived at the facility late that evening, her curiosity piqued. Inside, she found herself surrounded by other elite pilots, all handpicked for reasons no one dared to ask about. They were ushered into a briefing room where General Hayes stood waiting, his expression grave. "What you're about to hear is classified," Hayes began, his voice cutting through the murmurs of confusion. "We have confirmed the presence of extraterrestrial forces in our solar system. They are preparing to attack, and we believe it will happen soon. Your mission is to defend Earth at any cost." The room fell silent. Pilots exchanged uneasy glances, some shifting uncomfortably in their seats. This wasn't a drill, it was the stuff of nightmares. Yet beneath the fear lay a flicker of determination. These men and women had trained for war their entire lives. Now, they faced the ultimate test. As preparations intensified, humanity's ingenuity began to shine through. Engineers worked around the clock to retrofit decommissioned satellites into orbital weapons platforms, equipping them with plasma, cannons, and missile launchers. Programmers developed advanced targeting systems capable of tracking and engaging alien ships moving at incredible speeds. Meanwhile, scientists collaborated to create countermeasures against potential Zytherian technologies, including electromagnetic pulses designed to disrupt enemy communications. At the heart of these efforts was Captain James "Hawk" Hawkins, a decorated officer tasked with leading Earth's first line of defense. Hawk had earned his nickname during a daring rescue mission in Afghanistan years earlier, when he single-handedly saved an entire platoon pinned down by enemy fire. Now, he found himself at the helm of humanity's most ambitious undertaking, a fleet of star destroyers hidden beneath layers of atmospheric camouflage. "These ships aren't just machines," Hawk told his crew during a morale-boosting speech. "They represent everything we stand for: resilience, courage, and the refusal to give up even when the odds seem impossible. If those aliens think they can roll over us, they've got another thing coming." His words resonated deeply with the team. For many, this wasn't just a job, it was a chance to protect their families, their homes, and their future. The weight of responsibility hung heavy, but so did the promise of victory. Far above Earth, the Zytherians finalized their strategy. Xyler convened a meeting with his senior officers, projecting tactical maps onto the walls of the command chamber. Each ship in the fleet had been assigned a specific target: major cities, military installations, communication hubs. The goal was to sow chaos and confusion, leaving humanity too fractured to mount a coordinated response. "We strike at dawn," Xylar declared, his voice firm. "By the time they realize what's happening, it will be too late." Vrex nodded, though doubt still lingered in his glowing eyes. "And if they resist more fiercely than anticipated?" Xylar's mandibles twitched, betraying a hint of irritation. "Then we adapt. Humans may be unpredictable, but they are not invincible. Our technology is superior, and our numbers are overwhelming. Victory is inevitable." Dawn arrived sooner than expected. As sunlight spilled over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, the Zytherian fleet descended upon Earth. Massive ships materialized in the atmosphere, their sleek insectoid designs casting ominous shadows over cities below. Panic erupted instantly. Cars screeched to a halt on highways. Pedestrians froze in terror, and news anchors scrambled to broadcast live footage of the invaders. In Nevada, alarms blared throughout the facility. Elena and her team watched in horror as reports flooded in from around the world. The Zytherians had begun their assault, targeting key locations with devastating precision. Power grids failed, communication networks collapsed, and military bases were reduced to rubble. But humanity wasn't finished yet. High above the chaos, hidden among the clouds, Earth's star destroyers finally revealed themselves. With a deafening roar, hundreds of sleek silver vessels emerged from their camouflaged positions, splitting the sky open like a seam bursting under pressure. Plasma beams lanced through the void, striking the Zytherian ships with unrelenting fury. On the ground, civilians watched in awe as the tide of battle shifted. What had seemed like certain doom transformed into a glimmer of hope. Cheers erupted in living rooms, streets, and shelters worldwide. Humanity had fought back, and for the first time in history, the entire planet stood united. Inside the Odyssey, Hawk gripped the controls of his flagship, adrenaline coursing through his veins. Around him, his crew worked frantically to coordinate attacks and evade enemy fire. Despite the odds, they held their ground, pushing back against the relentless assault. "Keep firing," Hawk shouted over the din of explosions. "We're not losing today." Behind him, Lieutenant Sarah Chen piloted her fighter jet with unmatched skill, weaving between enemy ships and delivering precise strikes. Her squadron followed closely, their maneuvers fluid and synchronized. Together, they carved a path through the Zytherian fleet, buying precious time for reinforcements to arrive. For now, humanity had turned the tables. But the fight was far from over. The Zitherians regrouped, unleashing their most powerful weapon, a pulsar cannon capable of obliterating entire fleets in a single blast. The battle raged on, each side determined to claim victory. Yet amidst the chaos, one truth became clear. Humanity's greatest strength lay not in its technology or firepower, but in its spirit. Where others saw weakness, humans saw opportunity. Where others saw division, humans found unity. And where others saw despair, humans chose to fight. The universe had underestimated Earth once. It wouldn't make the same mistake again. The battle between humanity and the Zitherian fleet reached a fever pitch as Earth star destroyers clashed with the alien invaders in a dazzling display of light, fire, and destruction. The skies above Earth became a chaotic battlefield, filled with streaks of plasma beams, explosions that lit up the atmosphere like fireworks, and the deafening roar of engines straining against gravity. For every human ship lost, two more seemed to rise from the clouds, their sleek designs slicing through the chaos with precision. Inside the Odyssey, Captain James "Hawk" Hawkins gripped the edges of his command chair, his knuckles white, as he watched the tactical screen flicker with updates. The Zitherians were relentless, their ships moving with an eerie coordination that made them seem almost mechanical. But humanity had something the aliens didn't: unpredictability. Hawk's fleet darted and weaved, exploiting gaps in the enemy formation while launching concentrated volleys of missiles and energy blasts. "Sir," shouted Lieutenant Marcus Reed, the ship's tactical officer, pointing at the main view screen. "They're regrouping around one massive vessel. Looks like a command ship." Hawk squinted at the image on the screen. The alien ship was enormous, easily twice the size of the Odyssey. Its surface bristled with weapons turrets and strange, glowing conduits pulsed along its hull, giving it an otherworldly appearance. It hovered menacingly at the center of the Zitherian formation, directing the movements of smaller ships like a conductor leading an orchestra. "That must be their flagship," Hawk muttered under his breath. He turned to his communications, Officer Ensign Clara Vega. "Patch me through to all squadrons. We need to focus our attack there." Clara nodded, her fingers flying across the console. Within seconds, Hawk's voice echoed over the comms channel, reaching pilots scattered across the battlefield. "All units, this is Hawk. Priority target is the enemy command ship. Hit it hard, hit it fast, and don't let up. If we take out their leader, the rest will fall apart." Meanwhile, high above the fray, Lieutenant Sarah Chen led her squadron of elite fighter jets in a daring assault. Her team had been tasked with breaching the outer defenses of the Zitherian fleet and drawing enemy fire away from the larger star destroyers. Flying her jet with unmatched skill, Sarah dodged incoming plasma bolts and retaliated with bursts of cannon fire, each shot finding its mark with deadly accuracy. "Fox 2 away," she called out, launching a missile toward a pursuing Zitherian drone. The projectile struck true, engulfing the alien craft in a fiery explosion. Cheers erupted over the squadron's comms channel, but Sarah knew better than to celebrate prematurely. There were still hundreds of enemy ships left, and they weren't going down without a fight. As she maneuvered closer to the command ship, Sarah noticed something unusual: a series of glowing vents running along the underside of the vessel. They pulsed rhythmically, releasing waves of heat that distorted the surrounding air. She frowned, tilting her jet sideways to get a better look. "Control, this is Red Leader," she said into her headset. "I've spotted what looks like exhaust ports or cooling systems on the command ship. Could these be a weak point?" Back on the Odyssey, Elena Carter listened intently to the transmission. Though not a pilot herself, she had been monitoring the battle from the facility in Nevada, analyzing data in real time to provide strategic insights. When Sarah's report came through, Elena quickly cross-referenced it with thermal scans of the alien vessel. "She's right," Elena announced, her voice crackling over the comms. "Those vents are part of the ship's power distribution network. If we can disable them, it might cripple the entire vessel." Hawk leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "Sarah, do you copy that? Focus your attack on those vents. Take them out if you can." "Roger that," Sarah replied, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. She signaled to her squadron, relaying the new objective. All right, team, here's the plan. We're going in hot. Stay close and cover my six. With renewed determination, the squadron dove toward the command ship, weaving between defensive turrets and evading swarms of enemy drones. Sarah pushed her jet to its limits, skimming dangerously close to the alien vessel's surface. Plasma bolts whizzed past her cockpit, singeing the edges of her wings, but she refused to back down. "This is for Earth," she yelled, pulling the trigger on her cannons. A barrage of shots struck one of the glowing vents, causing it to flare brightly before erupting in a cascade of sparks. The impact sent shockwaves rippling through the command ship, destabilizing its systems. "Yes," Sarah exclaimed, grinning despite the chaos around her. "We've got a breach." On the bridge of the Zetherian flagship, Commander Xylar felt the vibrations of the attack reverberate through the ship's structure. His mandibles twitched in frustration as status reports poured in from his crew. The damage to the cooling systems was severe, threatening to overload the ship's reactors. Without those vents, the command ship would become a ticking time bomb. "Redirect power to auxiliary systems," Xylar barked, his voice sharp with urgency. "And launch all remaining drones. We cannot afford to lose this fight." Vrex, standing nearby, hesitated before speaking. "Commander, perhaps it's time to consider retreat. The humans are proving far more resourceful than anticipated." Xylar turned to glare at his second-in-command, his luminous eyes blazing with anger. "Retreat is not an option. To flee now would be to admit defeat, and to risk inspiring rebellion among our own ranks. No, we press on. Victory must be ours." Reluctantly, Vrex nodded and relayed the orders to the fleet. The Zetherians doubled down on their assault, unleashing a barrage of devastating attacks designed to overwhelm Earth's defenders, but humanity refused to yield. Back on the Odyssey, Hawk monitored the situation closely, his jaw clenched in concentration. The Zetherians' desperation was evident in their increasingly reckless tactics. Ships rammed into each other in kamikaze runs, while others fired indiscriminately, endangering both friend and foe alike. Despite the mounting casualties, Hawk remained resolute. "We're holding our ground," he told his crew, his voice firm. "But we need to end this now. Fire everything we've got at their command ship. Let's finish what Lieutenant Chen started." The order was carried out. With brutal efficiency, Star Destroyers converged on the alien flagship, unleashing a storm of plasma beams, missiles, and electromagnetic pulses. The combined firepower tore through the already weakened hull, exposing critical systems to the vacuum of space. Explosions rippled across the vessel's surface, sending chunks of debris tumbling into the void. Inside the command ship, alarms blared incessantly as systems failed one by one. Xylar stood frozen in place, his mind racing with possibilities. For the first time in centuries, he felt fear, not for himself but for his people. Had they misjudged humanity so grievously? Was their empire truly at risk? Before he could act, a final salvo struck the reactor core, triggering a catastrophic chain reaction. The command ship imploded in a blinding flash of light, taking dozens of nearby Zetherian vessels with it. The shockwave rippled outward, scattering the remaining fleet and leaving them disoriented and leaderless. On Earth, the news spread like wildfire. Live footage of the command ship's destruction dominated television screens and social media feeds worldwide. People poured into the streets, cheering and hugging strangers as tears streamed down their faces. Against all odds, humanity had won, or so it seemed. But aboard the Odyssey, Hawk knew the fight wasn't over yet. While the loss of their flagship dealt a crippling blow to the Zetherians, many of their ships remained operational. Without a coordinated effort, they could regroup and strike again. "General Hayes," Hawk said into his comms device, addressing the man overseeing Operation Starshield. "The command ship is gone, but we've still got work to do. What are your orders?" Hayes's voice came through loud and clear, tinged with pride and resolve. "You've done the impossible, Captain. Now bring the rest of them down. Show them that humanity doesn't give up. Not today, not ever." Hawk nodded, turning to his crew. "You heard the man. Form up and prepare for Phase 2. Let's make sure those aliens never forget who they messed with." As the human fleet pressed forward, the surviving Zetherian ships began to retreat, fleeing into the depths of space. Their once unstoppable armada had been shattered, their plans for conquest thwarted by a species they had underestimated. And though the scars of battle would linger for years to come, one thing was certain: humanity had proven itself a force to be reckoned with. Far beyond Earth's orbit, the remnants of the Zetherian fleet disappeared into the stars, carrying with them tales of a planet unlike any other. A planet where chaos and creativity went hand in hand, where unity arose from diversity, and where hope burned brighter than despair. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged victorious. The remnants of the Zetherian fleet fled into the void, their once mighty armada reduced to a scattering of battered ships limping through space. Commander Xylar sat in stunned silence on the bridge of his surviving cruiser, his elongated form slumped in defeat. The destruction of the command ship had been catastrophic, not only for its physical loss but for the psychological blow it dealt to the Zetherians. Their hive mind, which thrived on logic and order, struggled to process the chaos wrought by humanity's defiance. Xylar clenched his mandibles as he replayed the events in his mind. How had they miscalculated so grievously? The humans were supposed to be primitive, fractured, and easy to subdue. Instead, they had fought back with ferocity and ingenuity that defied explanation. Images of Earth's star destroyers splitting, the sky, plasma beams cutting through their ranks, and Lieutenant Sarah Chen's daring assault on the command ship haunted him. Humanity had proven itself unpredictable, and unpredictability was dangerous. Vrex approached cautiously, his glowing eyes dimmed with shame. "Commander," he began hesitantly, "we must decide our next course of action. Do we regroup and prepare for another strike, or retreat entirely?" Xylar turned slowly, his gaze piercing. "Retreat," he said finally, his voice heavy with resignation. "We underestimated them, Vrex. To return now would invite further humiliation, and possibly annihilation. Let us withdraw and reassess." Though reluctant, Vrex nodded. The remaining ships activated their hyperdrive systems, vanishing into the depths of space. For now, the immediate threat to Earth was over. But as the Zetherians retreated, Xylar couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter marked the beginning of something far greater, a reckoning between two species destined to collide again. Back on Earth, celebrations erupted across the globe. Cities lit up with fireworks, streets filled with jubilant crowds, and social media buzzed with messages of triumph. In living rooms, families hugged each other tightly, tears streaming down their faces as they watched footage of the battle. Humanity had faced an existential threat, and won. But amidst the euphoria there was sober reflection. General Marcus Hayes stood in the Situation Room at the Pentagon, surrounded by military leaders and government officials. The room was alive with chatter, strategists discussing how to fortify Earth's defenses, politicians debating the implications of first contact, and scientists analyzing data gathered during the conflict. Despite the victory, Hayes knew the war wasn't truly over. The Zetherians might have retreated, but they hadn't been eradicated. "Ladies and gentlemen," Hayes said, raising his hand to quiet the room, "we've achieved something extraordinary. Today, humanity has proven its strength, its resilience, and its unity. But let me make one thing clear. This is not the end. Those aliens will come back, and when they do, we need to be ready." Elena Carter, who had joined the meeting via video link from Nevada, nodded in agreement. Her face was pale with exhaustion, but her eyes burned with determination. "General's right," she said, addressing the group. "This skirmish gave us valuable intel about their technology and tactics. We can use this to improve our own systems. But more importantly, we need to expand Operation Starshield. Earth's orbital defenses are just the start. If we're going to survive future encounters, we'll need a full-scale interstellar defense network." Hayes leaned forward, his expression grim. "Then that's what we'll build. I want every available resource diverted to upgrading our fleet, developing new weapons, and training pilots." "And Elena," I'm putting you in charge of reverse engineering whatever tech we salvaged from the wreckage. Find out how they work and figure out how to counter them." Elena straightened, pride swelling in her chest despite her fatigue. "You've got it, General. We'll turn their own tech against them if it comes to that." While governments and militaries scrambled to prepare for the future, ordinary citizens grappled with the reality of alien life. Conspiracy theories that had once been dismissed as nonsense suddenly gained credibility. Social media platforms were flooded with posts speculating about the origins of the Zytherians, their motives, and whether humanity could trust them to stay away. Some called for peace talks, arguing that diplomacy might prevent further violence. Others demanded retribution, insisting that Earth should hunt down the invaders and eliminate the threat permanently. In the days following the battle, world leaders addressed the public, acknowledging the unprecedented nature of the event. President Laura Bennett of the United States delivered a televised speech from the White House, flanked by representatives from allied nations. "Today marks a turning point in human history," she began, her voice steady yet filled with emotion. "For centuries we have wondered if we are alone in the universe. Now we know the answer, and it comes with both wonder and danger. The extraterrestrial forces that attacked us sought to conquer our planet, but they underestimated the strength and resolve of humanity. Together we stood united, not as Americans or Chinese or Russians, but as one people defending our shared home. Moving forward, we must remain vigilant. We must invest in our defenses, explore the stars, and seek understanding of the unknown. This is not the end of our journey. It is the beginning." Her words resonated deeply, inspiring hope even as they acknowledged the challenges ahead. Across the globe, people embraced the idea of unity, realizing that survival depended on cooperation rather than division. Among those who felt the weight of responsibility most acutely was Captain James "Hawk" Hawkins. Back aboard the Odyssey, he wandered the corridors of the ship, his boots echoing softly against the metallic floor. Though injured and weary, his crew moved with purpose, repairing damage and preparing for whatever came next. Hawk paused outside the mess hall, watching as his team shared stories of the battle, their laughter mingling with somber reflections on the lives lost. He thought about Lieutenant Sarah Chen, whose bravery had turned the tide of the fight. She had returned to base after the final assault, her fighter jet scorched and battered but intact. When Hawk saw her stepping off the craft, relief washed over him like a tidal wave. He pulled her aside later, thanking her personally for her heroism. "You saved us out there, Sarah," he said, his tone sincere. "Without your quick thinking, we wouldn't have taken down that command ship." Sarah smiled faintly, though her eyes betrayed the toll the battle had taken. "It wasn't just me, sir. Everyone played their part. That's why we won. Together." Hawk nodded, clapping her on the shoulder. "Well, rest up. You've earned it. We'll need you sharp for whatever's coming next." As he walked away, Hawk couldn't help but feel a sense of pride mixed with unease. Humanity had proven itself capable of greatness, but the cost had been high. Ships destroyed, pilots killed, cities damaged, all sacrifices made in the name of survival. What price would they pay the next time? Far above Earth, debris from the battle drifted silently through orbit. Among the wreckage floated fragments of Zytherian technology, pieces of alien machinery that hinted at untold mysteries. Teams of engineers and scientists worked tirelessly to recover these artifacts, bringing them back to secure facilities for analysis. Elena Carter led the effort, poring over schematics and conducting experiments to unlock the secrets hidden within. "This could change everything," she murmured to herself late one night, examining a shard of alien metal under a microscope. The material shimmered faintly, its surface pulsing with an energy unlike anything on Earth. "If we can harness this..." Her assistant, Dr. Raj Patel, looked up from his workstation. "Do you think we'll ever understand them fully? Not just their tech, but their mindset?" Elena sighed, setting the sample aside. "I don't know, Raj. They're so different from us. Logical, calculated, but also arrogant. They didn't expect us to fight back because they didn't see us as equals. Maybe that's something we can exploit moving forward." Raj nodded thoughtfully. Or maybe it's something we can learn from. Either way, we've got a long road ahead. In the weeks that followed, Earth transformed. Nations set aside differences to collaborate on defense initiatives, pooling resources and expertise to build a global coalition unlike anything seen before. Pilots trained rigorously, preparing for the possibility of another invasion. Engineers designed faster, stronger ships equipped with cutting-edge weaponry. Scientists delved deeper into the mysteries of the cosmos, driven by a newfound curiosity about what lay beyond the stars. Yet amid all the progress, questions lingered. Who were the Zetherians really? Why had they targeted Earth? And perhaps, most importantly, where had they gone? And when would they return? Humanity had stared into the abyss and emerged victorious. But the universe was vast, filled with dangers and wonders yet to be discovered. As the people of Earth looked to the skies, they did so with a mixture of fear and excitement. They had faced the impossible, and prevailed. Now they stood ready to face whatever came next. For the first time in history, humanity wasn't just looking outward to explore. It was looking outward to defend. And in doing so, it had taken its first step toward becoming a true interstellar power. The aftermath of the battle left Earth forever changed. The skies, once a symbol of endless possibility and wonder, now carried an undercurrent of vigilance. Humanity had stared into the abyss and emerged victorious. But the scars of the conflict lingered, both in the physical destruction wrought by the Zetherians and in the collective psyche of a species that had finally come face to face with its place in the universe. In the months following the alien retreat, Earth's leaders worked tirelessly to rebuild and fortify the planet. Cities damaged during the attack were reconstructed, their skylines adorned with new monuments commemorating humanity's resilience. Military bases expanded, housing fleets of upgraded star destroyers and experimental spacecraft designed to rival anything the Zetherians could throw at them. Orbital defense platforms circled the globe like sentinels, their plasma cannons gleaming ominously against the blackness of space. Humanity was no longer content to simply exist. It was determined to thrive, even in the shadow of potential threats. But perhaps the most profound change wasn't in infrastructure or technology. It was in the way people thought about themselves and their world. For centuries, humanity had been divided by borders, ideologies, and cultures. Now, those divisions seemed trivial compared to the unity forged in the crucible of war. Nations, that had once eyed each other with suspicion, now collaborated openly, sharing resources and knowledge for the greater good. Languages, religions, and traditions remained diverse, but they coexisted under a shared banner: the survival of humankind. General Marcus Hayes became a symbol of this newfound unity. His leadership during Operation Starshield had galvanized not just the military but also civilians who saw him as a protector of Earth's future. In speeches delivered across the globe, Hayes emphasized the importance of preparedness without succumbing to fear. "We are explorers," he declared during one such address, "but we are also defenders. Our journey into the stars begins here, with the understanding that we must protect what we hold dear while reaching for what lies beyond." Deep within secure facilities scattered around the world, scientists continued to unlock the secrets of Zetherian technology. Dr. Elena Carter led the charge, her team working around the clock to analyze fragments salvaged from the wreckage. What they discovered astonished even the most seasoned researchers. Alien materials defied conventional physics, exhibiting properties that hinted at advanced manipulation of energy and matter. Power sources unlike anything on Earth suggested harnessing forms of energy humanity had barely begun to theorize. And cryptic data streams embedded in the debris offered glimpses into Zetherian communication protocols, a language unlike any spoken on Earth. "This changes everything," Elena said one evening, staring at a holographic projection of an alien circuit board. Her voice carried both awe and trepidation. "If we can replicate even a fraction of their tech, we'll leapfrog centuries of development." Her assistant, Dr. Raj Patel, nodded but raised a cautious finger. "And if we misuse it, We've seen what happens when power falls into the wrong hands. Elena sighed, leaning back in her chair. That's why we proceed carefully. This isn't just about weapons or defenses, it's about understanding. If we can learn how they think, maybe we can prevent another war. Yet, despite their progress, questions loomed large. Why had the Zetherians attacked? Was Earth truly their target, or had they stumbled upon humanity by chance? And where had they gone after retreating? These uncertainties haunted Elena, driving her to push harder, dig deeper, and explore further than ever before. Meanwhile, Captain James Hawk Hawkins and his crew aboard the Odyssey prepared for the next chapter of humanity's journey. The ship had been refitted with cutting-edge upgrades inspired by Zetherian designs, making it faster, stronger, and more versatile than ever. Hawk paced the bridge, his boots clicking softly against the floor as he reviewed tactical simulations. Though the immediate threat had passed, he couldn't shake the feeling that the Zetherians would return. And when they did, Earth needed to be ready. Lieutenant Sarah Chen stood nearby, her sharp eyes scanning the monitors. Since the battle, she had become a legend among pilots, her daring assault on the command ship immortalized in stories told around campfires and classrooms alike. Yet fame sat awkwardly on her shoulders. To her, the victory hadn't been hers alone. It belonged to every soldier, scientist, and civilian who had contributed to humanity's triumph. "Sir," Sarah said, turning to Hawk, "what's our mission now? Are we hunting them down?" Hawk shook his head, his expression thoughtful. "Not yet. Our priority is reconnaissance. We need to know where they went, what they're planning. But make no mistake, if they come back, we'll be waiting." Sarah nodded, her resolve unwavering. "Then let's get to work." Far beyond Earth's orbit, the remnants of the Zetherian fleet regrouped in a remote sector of the galaxy. Commander Zyler convened a council of his senior officers, their glowing eyes reflecting the dim light of the command chamber. The mood was somber, tinged with shame and uncertainty. Never before had the Zetherians suffered such a defeat, not against any species, let alone one as seemingly primitive as humanity. "We underestimated them," Zylar admitted, his voice heavy with regret. "Their chaos masked their strength. Their disunity became their unity. And their ingenuity, it rivaled our own." Vrex leaned forward, his exoskeleton clicking softly. "What do we do now, Commander? Retreat further? Rebuild our forces?" Zylar hesitated, his mandibles twitching as he weighed the options. "No, we cannot afford to cower. Humanity has proven itself a formidable foe, but also a potential ally. Perhaps there is value in studying them further, learning from their unpredictability. If nothing else, they have shown us that dominance is not always achieved through force." His words sparked murmurs of agreement among the council members. For all their arrogance, the Zetherians were pragmatic. They recognized the lessons of failure and adapted accordingly. As they plotted their next move, one thing was clear: Earth would not be forgotten. Back on Earth, humanity's gaze turned outward once again. Space exploration programs received unprecedented funding, fueled by both scientific curiosity and strategic necessity. Missions to Mars accelerated, with plans to establish permanent colonies serving as stepping stones for deeper ventures into the cosmos. Telescopes scanned distant star systems, searching for signs of life or danger. Humanity was no longer content to remain confined to its cradle. It yearned to stretch its wings and soar. Among those leading the charge was Elena, whose research had opened doors to possibilities previously relegated to science fiction. Using insights gleaned from Zetherian tech, she spearheaded the development of a prototype warp drive capable of bending space-time. If successful, it would allow humanity to traverse vast distances in mere moments, bringing the stars within reach. "This is our future," Elena told her team during a late-night briefing. "Not just defending ourselves, but exploring, discovering, growing. The universe is vast and we've only scratched the surface." As the project progressed, hope mingled with ambition. Humanity wasn't just surviving, it was evolving. The encounter with the Zetherians had forced it to confront its vulnerabilities and embrace its strengths. Fear gave way to determination, Division gave way to unity, and uncertainty gave way to purpose. Years passed, and Earth continued to flourish. Cities grew taller, economies thrived, and breakthroughs in science and technology reshaped daily life. But above all, humanity remembered. Memorials dedicated to the fallen dotted landscapes worldwide, reminders of the sacrifices made to secure the future. Schools taught children about the battle, instilling pride in their heritage while emphasizing the importance of peace. One fateful night, as billions gazed skyward during a rare celestial event, a message arrived, a transmission from deep space. It was brief, encoded in patterns eerily similar to those found in Zytherian data streams. Scientists scrambled to decode it, their hearts racing with anticipation. When the translation came, it was simple yet profound. "You have earned our respect." For a moment, silence fell over the globe. Then, slowly, cheers erupted. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged not just victorious, but recognized. The Zytherians hadn't returned as conquerors. They had acknowledged humanity as equals. It was a beginning, a fragile thread of diplomacy woven between two vastly different species. Whether it would lead to peace or renewed conflict remained uncertain. But one truth was undeniable. Humanity had taken its first step toward becoming a true interstellar power. And so, as the stars twinkled overhead, Earth looked outward with hope. The odds had been overwhelming until they called humans.